I just feel like that you should be concentrating on VR to make it to help people and not use it as just simple video games. My brother bought one of those VR headsets, whatever, and my other brother went over and tried it out, and he said it like that thing will flip the way that you actually think about reality. And you want to talk about that?
Well, VR?
Yeah, we can talk about VR, can't we? Welcome to the CRollur Willy podcast.
I'm CRollur.
And I'm Willie.
And on today's episode, we're talking about VR headsets, and also possibly
virtual reality.
The whole virtual reality, the fact that we might be existing in one without even knowing it.
I mean, we can go into multi-universes and all that stuff later on, but...
So you're talking about how VR is like a different experience, how it'll flip your experience of like playing games and experiencing things. And that's a really interesting thing, like immersion wise. When you like read a book or play a video game or watch a movie, it does affect you in a way, right? Like people have been known to get like, they have known temporary effects from playing video games. That's why a lot of people do research into like violence in video games. Most of it's usually temporary effects that happen shortly after playing a video game. But in a VR setting, anything that they experience is heightened. And they call that like absorption, like how in depth you feel with it. And I think the reason why is VR pretty much takes all the external senses that you experience and it cuts them out because you're not aware of your surroundings. I mean, your entire vision is encompassed by this headset. You have on you hear in like all around you, and everything else is cut out. Like you're not experiencing like the outside world. You're experiencing what's right in front of you that's being presented by this headset.
The idea of VR been out even before they even made VR. Right, like there's a lot of sci-fi shows,
Oh yeah, sci-fi's had VR ideas for a while, and Nintendo tried it a long time ago with the Virtual Boy, but that did not work out very well. I think the Oculus is the first mildly popular version that I've known about.
And there's three different type of VR. You got the Oculus, and you have PlayStation, VR.
PS VR.
Which one's the strongest?
Personally, I think Oculus was the strongest. I think PlayStation is it now because they have a whole gaming system behind them. Right. You don't have to buy into like a computer system to support it.
Now, most VR, when people use VRs, it's usually video games, right? But they cannot make it look that realistic, can they? VR, like when you put the VR on, can it actually look like what you actually see, or is it going to be like kind of like gamey? You know what I mean?
Up until recently, it's always been a bit gamey. I mean, there are things where they could take you through like a virtual tour, which is literally just a...
virtual porn. That's what it is.
Oh, virtual porn?
Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a thing all on its own.
Virtual porn. You put the Oculus on and you pretend you're that person.
The problem with that is you only experience it up here. Everything that's happening isn't in your face.
Right.
So... you get the experience of visualness, but you don't get any physical sensation. I think that's one of the things that's lacking from VR. Is a sense of physical.
Well,
and I can tell you that is something that sci-fi. You mentioned sci-fi. Like sci-fi has come up with multiple solutions for this, including tactile suits that you could wear. I was reading this thing called Cyber Squad, and they literally are game testers that test virtual reality games.
Mm-hmm.
And they have entire bodysuits designed specifically to save them from how realistic the headset is. But then again, their virtual reality is no longer like a headset. It no longer goes around your face. It actually plugs into the back of your head like Matrix.
I'm going to throw a curveball question at you. Why have VR if you can just use holograms? Holograms probably cost too much, right?
First of all, holograms so far as we can make them are very limited because you have to have like this setup to get the hologram to show up.
Right.
And even then, it's not tangible. It can't shift. Like you could have an object that shifts, but your environment can't shift. They haven't made a hologram capable. They don't have a holodeck like from Star Trek.
Yeah, but like you see like a lot of like sci-fi shows and stuff, like for example, I remember watching this movie called Jason X when Jason goes into space. Then he walked in his room and it was like all holograms and stuff. Like they have the technology to do that, don't they?
Not really. I mean, you can make a projection of something, but
can they do gaming with holograms?
Unfortunately, no, because
like you said,
you can make a projection of an object. Like if I take my phone and I place this thing on it, that it takes the screen and it reflects it up to make a hologram image that looks 3D. But that's all it can display is whatever's on my screen,
and it can't show like reaction of like what you do with that.
It's literally just a video. It's literally just a video playing.
Okay, so
and you can't really interact with it at all.
So there's no reaction. Like if say there's a dinosaur walking from me, I punch it, it's just a hologram. It's not going to react to it.
Even if we had the capability of making a hologram without having some kind of object to hold it in, like a prism, or I think they use like plastic pieces now on top of phones to make that work. I've seen it. They literally have like this image of a butterfly, and what you do is you take like 4 pieces of plastic, and as you look into them, it reflects it in a certain way that makes the butterfly look like it's flapping its wings above your phone. But it's literally just a reflection refraction in the plastic you put on top of your phone.
I mean, it was a good idea though. Like you can
even if you could do like a laser image, you would have to use like some type of medium, like a fog, like how they do laser light shows. Even then, it's still absolutely intangible. And if you try to interact with it, it would break down completely.
Yeah, so that's why they got the VR headset, so everything gets cut off from outside of.
With most VR headsets, you have something that you interact with to manage the world, whether it's a controller or these little things that act like your hands.
I never actually got to get a chance to play with the VR. My younger brother.
Yeah, they have these little wands that you hold on to. They have little buttons on them, and they track your movement of your hands in the world. So when you move your hands, the hands in the world move too.
You think?
So it feels a little more realistic. There's no haptic feedback. There's no like if you're holding onto a box, you're not going to feel like you're holding a box.
They had an episode of South Park with the whole VR thing with the Oculus. Do you think that one day that it's going to get so powerful and be so real that people is going to start getting confused about what's real and what's not real?
It's possible. I've definitely seen some cases of people who are affected by our current realities. That, I mean, the fact that they felt like what was happening in front of them was real. But once you take the headset off, you no longer you're disconnected.
But what if you get so confused with the Oculus that you're inside of a world, inside of a world, inside of a world? You know what I mean?
Inception?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Except for inside dreams, virtual reality?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible.
So you think this is kind of like something scary that we should not deal with? Or
I think any emerging technology could be scary. Just like the current advancement of AI technology, and the fact that they're pretty much capable of taking away our jobs as is. Like obviously robotics has been taking away humans in factories for a while, but now you could ask an AI to create a piece of art for you, or you could ask it to write like a transcript for you, like for a movie, for a game. Like the creativeness of AI is starting to take over human creativity now too. So looking at it, almost any emerging technology is capable of being dangerous and bad for humanity. I mean, the doomsday scenario is that robots and AI are going to take over the world and kill us all.
All right, I'm going to ask the audience. I want you guys to vote on the not the next episode, but the following episode. If you guys want us talking about AI, vote for the AI. Then if you guys want us to vote for who's like the worst criminals, like either the geniuses or just bad guys in general, just hit the other one. Well, I wanted to talk about that VR guy, the bad guy that was trying to create the freaking VR that will actually kill you in real life. I just happened to watch a video on YouTube.
And his nerve gear. It basically he's trying to create something that's so realistic, and I say that in quotes because he doesn't have the VR, he didn't have the VR headset capability of making it that realistic, but he did have the ability that if you die in game, you can kill yourself in real life.
Oh, so that's a bad guy.
And if you're thinking, like, does it shock your nervous system like it does in, like, Sword Art Online or something like that? It's an explosive.
It's a cool concept though, but
it's not you're basically just strapped a bomb to your face.
Yeah, it's not possible.
But
I mean, I can make a VR like that. I'll just duct tape a bunch of hand grenades to a freaking screen, and you die, and then all the pins get pulled.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, the thing is, that's not the first time that people have done something that has real life consequences.
I think the guy's idea was to just make a torture device. If anything.
I want to hit up on this. It's not the first time somebody's done something like this. Probably the first time somebody's went to that extreme. But there was a Pong clone game, like Pong.
Yeah.
Somebody made a clone of it that shocked you.
What the fuck? You get shocked by playing Pong?
Yeah, when you lose a game, it shocks you.
That's fucked up.
And there have been other real-world consequence games, but that one, I think, is kind of the closest one that I could find.
Well, they got an Operation game that shocks you if you fuck up. So
that's not really... That more or less vibrates the game. I mean, unless somebody actually modified it to really do shocking, but mostly it just vibrates the game and scares the crap out of you.
Yeah. So they... Basically, like with the whole virtual reality, they try to make it seem so real. But when you're actually stuck in a virtual reality, like say for example, you're riding like a roller coaster thing, does it actually really make it feel like it's real?
It does, actually. It does.
What's it do? Just like fuck with your brain so much?
It tricks your brain into thinking that you're really there. This is what happens. So when you're riding a roller coaster, you feel like you're going over the hill until you realize that you're not falling. But some people actually trigger a panic attack because of it.
So virtual reality can be bad, like cause like people death and all that. Because
it also could be a rewarding experience. It could also be like a rewarding experience as far as thrills that some people can never have, or just in general being an enjoying game by being that much more realistic. But at the same time, it could also be like it could also like you got the bad, you got the extremely fun, but you also have the good in the sense that you can train.
Make sure when you buy a VR game or you play it, make sure you know what you're getting into, because if you're not in like horror and stuff like that, do not play horror on a VR.
Oh yeah,
if you're scared of heights, do not play any game that has anything with heights with VR, because it's gonna really mind fuck you.
Yeah, but as I was saying, like there is another aspect of Pro. This is something we're seeing with AR, which is augmented reality, which is basically VR, but instead of fully in a different world, you just have an overlay, and then you can see what's in front of you. And it helps you out with whatever you're currently doing. But you could also do VR scenarios where you're training in a place that it could be dangerous in real life to do what you're doing, but it could also be rewarding to get that training so that if you're ever in that scenario, you know what to do ahead of time.
Well, the military have been using VR for like training helicopter pilots and stuff like that.
Most of what they're doing is an actual simulator, which is essentially, instead of a VR headset strapped to your head, it's like a VR setup that goes around you.
Yeah,
like the screens are.
But it's still VR. It's still VR though. It makes it feel real.
Actually, more realistic than a gaming VR headset.
Yeah,
because in those they have pistons that go up and down to make you feel like you're getting jerked around by your actions.
That is cool.
That's also how they do. I think was it the Tower Terror or whatever, the Disney World attraction where you go through a falling elevator.
Why the fuck would you go into a falling elevator?
It's more or less a thrill ride, but you're not actually in an elevator. You're on a platform that looks like an elevator, and by the way that the floor has like these little shock things underneath of it that go up and down, and it makes you feel like you're falling hundreds of floors when you're probably moving a maximum of like 5 feet.
So basically, we're turning away from VR and just coming up with like man-made object or
these things have existed for a while.
Yeah,
they actually, I think, are precursors to modern VR. I think modern VR could actually be like an accompaniment to these things, make you feel like they're even more involved.
What if Disney decided to make a room, right, and put the VR on people's heads? Then they, left them in a room, and then they play something, that everyone,
It would not shock me if they did that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they have a train that, for their Hogwarts train, uses panels to make it feel like you're actually on a train. We're on a tram that's being pulled by cables.
What the fuck?
And it displays things outside. It shows it shows like the mentors walking by the door or going by the door. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that.
I feel like we're just in the early stages of VR, even though I've been out 8 years now. With the Oculus, been out for about 8 years.
I'm not sure at this point. I know it's been out for quite a while, but we're still.
I feel like
think that even modern games have existed since the 80s.
I just feel like it's going to get so strong one day that people are going to start getting confused from what's real and what's reality.
I mean, yeah.
What's the damage? Is there any health issues? That they
there could be health issues depending on if somebody has a heart condition or
high blood pressure
attacks or stuff. There's also the idea that a lot of people think that your emotions and your behaviors outside of a video game are affected by video games. That VR enhances that.
Do you feel like it can actually ruin people's social behavior too? Because let's say I had a VR headset, right, and I decided to get a girlfriend on the a video game reality.
I think that in a lot of cases, these things are things that are external that are affected by VR or affected by video games or affected by books, movies, whatnot. Whatever you're into, these are things that are problems ahead of time that are just enhanced by whatever you're indulging in. Because violent movies and violent video games, people watch those and play those all the time. And not everybody's a serial killer shooting up a school.
No. I'll tell you what though, when I play Grand Theft Auto and I jump off the highest building, it even gets my stomach, turning. I'm like, oh shit, and I'm not even in a VR reality.
So that's the thing is, I think some people are more prone to certain things than others are.
Yeah.
Because I would not be affected by that at all. The matter of fact, jumping off things is one of the first things I test in a video game. To see whether or not whether or not you take fall damage, to see whether or not you die.
Parkour.
Whether or not you could fall off the edge of a world border type thing. Like a lot of games will stop you from walking off a cliff.
Right. So every game you play, the first thing you try to do is commit suicide.
It's not the first thing, but it's what if an opportunity presents itself, I might try it.
CRollur can't go through a game without dying because the first thing he's gonna do is jump off.
All right. I'll give you an example. In Destiny, there is a place called the Tower. It is basically a giant building. Obviously, it's called a tower. Within the first 3 times I was there, I had jumped off the side at least 3 or 4 times. In fact, I also tried to get up to the highest point and tried to jump off to see if I could kill myself with enough damage. I have yet to find a place tall enough to hurt myself without falling out of the world. You could fall out of the world, but I've yet to find a place you could kill yourself with by fall damage.
When you were up on the tallest part of that tower and you jumped off, did you face plant it or did you land on your feet?
You land on your feet.
Oh, okay, that's bullshit. Make it more realistic, Destiny.
I mean, it's a thing that I think there are certain things I think a lot of people try in video games, and that is one of them.
Because you can't do it in real life, and you want
that's one thing. Yeah. The other thing is to know whether or not, figure out early on whether or not a cliff is a hazard. Okay.
Now, what if I was playing with the VR, right, and I happened to hit my head on the object in the VR itself, would I actually feel that? I'll be like,
You
probably,
probably,
doink.
you wouldn't feel it. However, you might get the sensation that you should.
Right.
And I don't know how well, I haven't experienced VR that much, but I do know that phantom pain is a thing. Like if you take like somebody's hand and like a fake hand, and you like brush their hand and the fake hand at the same time, and you take like a hammer to the fake hand, people will freak out and like experience pain even though they weren't hit.
You think it might be You think it might be paranormal too, though?
I do not necessarily believe in paranormal, but then again, I also believe that anything we can't explain is basically just science that we don't know yet.
Yeah, because that'll be so weird. Like you actually like if someone's hand touches your hand in the VR, it could be a paranormal thing.
We did brush across another topic a couple times, and I did say that we were going to talk about this, which is the idea that we might be in a virtual reality game.
Like the Matrix.
Kind of like the Matrix, yes. And in fact, this is something that I found out. Some people actually use that as a defense in court.
Oh, shit. I
People
read
are like,
about that.
I feel like I'm in a virtual reality game, and they used it as a way to basically plead insanity because they didn't think that what they were doing was real.
But you believe those guys actually really believe that?
I doubt it. Because even if you were, you know right from wrong inside it. Like, even if you think that you're playing a video game, you still know right from wrong.
I mean, like, even if I had the headset on, I'm not going to go around and just kill random people, inside that game, I was like, oh, simulation, school bus driver or something like that, I'm actually going to drive the school bus or something.
Oh my gosh. I actually saw somebody in a bus driving simulation who ran... Well, I think they were either driving a truck or like a commercial bus, and they passed the school bus and hit a kid, and kept going. And I'm like, why? Why did you do that,
dude? That guy sucked.
The worst thing is he looked like he was shocked that he could do that. And I'm like, obviously the game's gonna let you.
Don't do that in real life.
The game's not gonna stop you from running over somebody.
I don't know. I just feel like there's like a lot of dangers in VR because like people will get confused about what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah, well,
like you said, the whole court cases and stuff. And
yeah, but let's. This does kind of remind me of Johnny English Strikes Back. Like, there's a VR scene where he's playing VR and he's basically beating up innocent people, thinking that he's taking on a counter, like a different force. Like he takes this, like he beats a guy up with an umbrella. Like he takes the umbrella from the guy, thinking that it's a freaking like a gun. I think it's hilarious that he does it.
I mean,
but it's a movie.
That shit happens in real life when people are playing with their VR. Because my mom accidentally punched my younger brother because she was playing a boxing game.
I mean, I've definitely seen things where people walk through where somebody's playing VR. They don't see where the surroundings are.
Yeah,
hit somebody. I think the coolest one was when a kid walked through, and they were playing. I think they were playing a boxing game. They were just punching. The kid walked through and missed every punch on the way through. And I'm like, holy crap, you are lucky, kid.
Let's say they make a game, right, that actually alternates your life yourself, and what if that is actually the multiverse of actually you?
Oh, you mean like they did in Rick and Morty?
Where
Morty played this game where he lived in another life.
Yeah.
And Rick did it too, and then he basically went off the grid in the game.
Yeah. What if that's possible?
That would be kind of cool, but also kind of weird because that would mean wasting my game. I think. I feel like I have a lot better potential, and there are a lot of things I regret, but I don't know what I would change if I could change.
Well, what if there's like a multiverse? You ever watch that movie, The One?
I don't.
This guy, I think he's Jet Li. He goes to every multiverse, kills himself to make himself powerful.
That's an interesting theory. An interesting idea. However, with multiverse theory, I don't think killing yourself would make you more powerful.
Well, in the movie, they were saying that basically yourself is split up in like different, yous and different, universes or whatever. So this guy, what he did was Jet Li, of course, Jet Li. He would go around and kill a person in a different universe, right? And that would get split between all of them. And what he did, he would go down the chain and kill himself, in different universes, and all that, energy goes to him, where it makes him stronger.
Well, that's interesting. But then, if you can universe hop and get stronger like that, don't you think there's other people doing the same?
Like,
thing?
I know this has nothing to do. Well, actually, it does kind of do with VR, because I think VR is kind of like that with.
Well, if you're universe hopping and killing all your other selves, don't you think either your other selves might try the same thing, or even worse, somebody else is trying the same thing to stop you?
The guy that's going around killing everyone, that his universe had the highest technology, where they were able to teleport and all that shit, But the other universes was like, kind of like us, We just have like regular, cars and stuff. They had like spaceships in his universe and stuff.
I mean, that is a thing, but then what if you die in another universe? Somebody takes you out sneakily.
Then it gets split. The energy gets split from that person.
And my thing is, if that's the case, then why aren't other people doing it too? Why is this guy the one doing it?
I don't know, because he's fucking Jet Li. He's allowed to.
I just say, like, if he could do it, so can other people. I'm sure there are good people and bad people. So they're probably
they're like the highest police state, in the universe. They actually was a police of the, whole entire, everything.
Okay, yes, sure, but that would mean that somebody's going to stop him from doing exactly what he's doing, whether it be for their own gains, being a bad person, or being for good gains to stop him from doing what he's doing.
Touche.
I mean, I feel like that's the ultimate solution to this problem. The checks and balances, that if somebody else from that universe could do it,
anyone can do it.
I think that is an interesting concept, though. But
I mean, like, I like sci-fi. I just don't like Star Wars and Star Trek.
I'm starting to get into some sci-fi stuff, but I'm more like fantasy with magic and stuff. It's kind of cool when they mix the two, though. Like futuristic sci-fi with magic, which is, I think, why Star Wars hits, because it's basically space magic.
It is.
So
yeah, it is.
But back to the VR thing, we're talking like the Matrix stuff, and because I really want to hit on this.
Is it possible that like someone can like learn anything from just getting a plug in the back of the head and learn how to do kung fu, learn how to do that? Because that's VR, right?
I don't.
That plug is basically VR.
I don't think it's as simple as the Matrix put it. Despite, no matter what you do, you would have to rearrange your basically your memories, your wiring in your brain. You can't just inject stuff into there. You could go through an intense training regimen, I think. More like the scenarios in which Morpheus and Neo went into when he talked about how people were batteries.
That's not possible.
No, that isn't actually.
No,
people being batteries.
We talked about this like back in like episode like 4 or 5 or something like that.
Of season 1.
Yeah, it was season 1. We talked about this, and you basically explained, like it's not possible.
That's because it actually requires more energy to keep the body living than it would produce for a machine.
Yeah, it's not possible.
That's like.
But what is possible, if you inject every human being with, alkaline and eliminate the blood, but the person's going to be dead, but you can inject them with like a whole body fluid of alkaline and there'll be a battery.
You have to get the power from somewhere. The idea behind it was not necessarily that people were batteries, although that is what was said. It was more or less that people were power generators. And it's not, because people will die without nutrition and energy into them.
Can I ask you something though? Because going right back in the VR, remember Neo, right? You watched the Matrix movies?
Yeah.
Remember when he wanted to learn kung fu and they plugged him in and they put him in a virtual reality?
Yeah, that training.
And he learned all this stuff through VR, right?
Yeah.
Is that can I learn like things through VR?
You probably can, but not in that way. Like
So
the training with the other people is a yes. The idea of learning the moves instinctively because you plugged in some type of data, there's no way to rewrite the brain that fast.
Right, so you're telling
you have
me
to learn it.
You're telling me that I can't just put the VR on, right, and learn how to do backflips.
No, you have to train to do backflips. Going into a VR setting, learning how to do backflips is as easy as this is what your body needs to do in the virtual reality game. Make this happen in the virtual reality.
All right, so don't put a VR headset on and start doing backflips because it's gonna be a bad day.
But if you're trying to learn a real life skill and you're trying to do it through VR, you can't just plug in and learn it. You still have to train.
So you're saying I can learn how to weld through VR?
Yes, but it would be no different than going out and actual welding, other than the fact that it would be you wouldn't have to have your own equipment. You wouldn't have to have. You wouldn't have to physically weld. You'd be doing it in a virtual reality.
Because we're talking about earlier about the helicopter pilots, they're learning, that. But let's say, for example, I got the tools, right? Like the little controllers, whatever. And I'm trying to learn to weld, and the game is, telling me it's like,
Yeah, you could learn.
That would actually help me in real life, but I still have to learn that.
Yeah, you have to learn it, but it would be a lot easier to do it through VR.
So it can be good.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is the idea that they put in like the Matrix and other ideas like that, where you just you plug a jack into the back of your brain and you now are an expert at welding.
No,
that's bullshit.
You got to put work into
it. You physically can't do that.
There's no cheating. There's no cheating in life, guys.
The sci-fi idea is that since you're in a virtual reality game, you then can enact something that. It's the idea of being able to bend reality. Sure, you may not physically be able to do it, but your virtual reality person can.
I'll tell you what, though, if they made a virtual reality of everything around us, I would literally be like, stomping around.
They actually can do that.
Yeah.
I forgot what the actual term is, but it's some type of scanning. They basically go around an environment and they do 3D scans of everything and then they import it. And it looks photorealistic.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. There's actually a new game a new game trailer that just came out, which people thought was absolutely real. It looks literally like body cam footage of somebody going into this area with a gun and like their flashlight.
So the technology with graphics is getting so good where like they can actually make it look like you right in front of me, right?
Yeah. Unrecord is the name of the game. And it's made in Unreal Engine. And it looks absolutely it looks almost flawless. In fact, the actual producers of the game had to release a second video after the trailer to prove that it was a video game and not real footage.
It was that real.
And
the way
they proved it is they started clipping through walls.
That's kind of funny.
They put no clip on and clip through walls and stuff. Because people were actually accusing them of just using real body cam footage.
It was that.
I mean, if you're crazy. Really, really looking, there are giveaways. Like the fact that the lighting in certain areas just doesn't quite match. Like, obviously, if one area is too dark and another area is too light, in a real life scenario, that light would be more reflective. There wouldn't be no dark area if something's extremely light. And the fact that a flashlight doesn't shine the perfect fucking circle and would have, if somebody's holding it, it wouldn't be completely steady. But stuff other than that, it looks absolutely real.
I just feel like that you should be concentrating on VR to help people and not, use it as just simple video games. For example, you know what I mean?
Here's the thing, though, is a lot of
colleges.
A lot of advancements have happened because of video games, though.
Right. I just feel like colleges, they train their students. They use the VR.
That's actually where a lot of AR, augmented reality, has been
pushing over to that.
It's basically because basically instead of being completely enclosed in a different world, you now have this lens over your current world where you can see helpful hints and tricks and how to do something.
I mean, like,
or it might highlight.
How better to teach someone like how to do an autopsy, than using a VR, not an actual real body, right? Imagine if they made a room like kind of like how the military did it. You know how you're talking about the hydraulics and stuff like that. Imagine they made a room with like you and your school buddies or whatever go into a room, dress up like surgeons, right? And wearing the VRs and stuff, and actually working on that same thing.
I think in that scenario, it would probably be easier. There's no reason to have like a room set up for that. Probably easier to have like VR headsets and have everybody around a table.
But then someone might cut your hand on accident.
Here's the thing: is you'd have probably plastic or fake implements that track in VR. That would be how I would do that. If you're wanting to do some type of like surgical thing,
and I'm
you basically do VR. You have a VR body and VR tools, but
Right.
you have plastic implements that you pick up off the table that are tracked in real time in the virtual reality.
And all we're doing is giving these
That way, if I
companies
do start scratching your hand with it, it isn't going to do anything because it's plastic, right?
get out of here.
That's just the whole thing. I think VR can be helpful. It can be fun. It can also be dangerous. I think.
I mean, when I walked in here and we're going, we're talking about VR, and I was like, I want to talk about it. I instantly was like, VR is bad.
But VR is not bad. It can be helpful.
Yeah,
it can also be fun.
It can be helpful. It just depends on how you're using it.
But anything could be bad. You drive a truck, right?
Yeah.
That truck can kill people.
Yeah.
Does that make it bad?
It makes the person that's driving it bad.
There you go. So if VR causes somebody to, I shouldn't even say VR causes somebody. If somebody does something because they think they're stuck in VR, I think there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, mental.
Yeah. And I think that person needs help, and I think that person is the problem, not VR.
So, like, people that has, like, a mental state or whatever, killing.
I mean, that's
whatever,
actually.
it's
the same argument with guns, too.
Can you imagine they made Grand Theft Auto VR? And some guy that hasn't.
I don't know if they did or not. I thought they did, but. I know they made Minecraft VR, but I think
so. Like some guy playing Grand Theft Auto, right? He goes over and punches a freaking hooker, right? And then I think it's all right to do that in real life.
I don't think that's how that works, because if that was the case, then people playing GTA would do that in real life already, and there are very few people who decide to do that. They are already likely to do that, and all they needed was a push.
Oh, okay. All right, that's a good one.
Disposition, I think, might be the word.
Basically, they need a match to light the fire just so they can go out and actually do it themselves. And
I think that's the problem.
And the VR does that, for these certain peoples.
I mean, you're coming at this with the idea that VR is bad. And I think there's plenty good about VR. Plenty good. I just think the biggest problem is that certain people are inherently problematic, and that those people would be affected by VR higher than anybody else. The advancements in VR might be good, it might be bad. We don't know because we haven't reached it. We won't know till we reach it.
When you think we will reach it? Within like 50 years? Or
I doubt it. Mostly because humanity is really good at going in fucking circles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is to predict something like, we could have an absolute breakthrough in VR technology, or we could stagnate.
You think that one day, though, that they will make like a fake world like how the Matrix did, and
if we're not already living in it, I think that it's possible.
I
just don't understand why.
I kind of want to throw like the Truman Show, even though it's not VR, but what if the government decided to stay?
If the Truman Show was VR, that would be an entirely different thing.
Yeah, but let's say the government decides they want you to, think differently, then you're like, in a virtual reality world where everything's good, like kind of like the Matrix.
We keep going back to the Matrix, which is an interesting idea. That just the whole idea being that humanity could be tricked into thinking that it's not that fake reality is the reality. I truly think that's possible, but I don't think we're there.
In the future, it can be because it could be like, like 3,050 or so.
But if we are living in this, we're living dangerously close to the edge of realization.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we figure out VR to the point that we could make people believe that they are in a real world inside of VR, and we were already in VR, we've basically just made a loop.
Well, I mean, I remember watching, like, you ever play Fallout?
Yeah.
What if, like, they can do, like, reality where it feels like that we're in, like, 2023 right now, right? But we're actually in the year, like, 4,000. But, we're not really awake, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like the Matrix.
I mean, it's possible, but I'm still saying that we are if we were in a virtual setting, we are at the point of self-realization. We are at that tipping point. Because if we create a virtual reality in which people actually believe that they are in a real-world scenario, but they're in virtual reality, that is the tipping point of us realizing that we are in a virtual setting ourselves.
And the people that use these in the court cases, like, what if
we are in a virtual reality, I personally think that we would figure it out at some point, and they would have to reset us because we are at, as I said, we're at that tipping point.
No, that's good.
We are just at that point.
That's a good point.
We've been talking virtual reality, Matrix. Are we in a reality? Is it dangerous? Is it not dangerous?
It's dangerous.
I don't think it's as dangerous as you claim it to be. I also think it's beneficial.
It can be, but in the wrong hands, it can be really bad.
And I also think that if we're living in a virtual reality, we might as well accept it and just live. Because for most of it's pointless to fight it. Because most of us aren't going to have the revelation of, oh my God, I found the way out, or oh my God, I found a way behind the curtain. And I think with all that summarized, I think virtual reality is probably the way forward for a lot of gaming and instruction and helpful ways. Could also be hurtful.
Just be careful with if you do get like a VR, like an Oculus or whatever, just be careful of what you play because, like, just know that, if you're scared, like, let's say you're scared of heights, don't be jumping off a bridge off the VR because that would, like, cause you to have a panic attack and stuff like that. And you got CRollur.
Yeah, I'm CRollur.
And I'm Willy.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Peace out.
Peace out. You ever had deja vu?
I have.
Is that a glitch or?
My thing is, I don't know. Because there are things where I don't know if it's happened twice in my life or if I dreamt about it. Because, honest to God, have had dreams in which it happened. One of the scariest ones was 9/11. Now, I cannot know if this was an earlier attack in New York with a helicopter or if I was dreaming about the Twin Towers.